All right, so Fred is asking. All right, so he wants to automatically close a long trade. So all these examples are for a long trade. When a candle high is below the entry price. All right, yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, just flatten out the trade. If a bar closes, if a bar is completely below the entry price. All right, so that's question number one. And then question number two is for a break even. So if a candle low, so if a candle closes with its low above the entry price, then move the stop loss to break even. All right, yeah, cool. Let's see if we can do that. I'm pretty sure we can do that here. All right, so let's just create an entry order here. All right, so you got to create an entry order first, and then you can create your profit target and stop loss here. All right, so I will just throw in, let's just throw in this ATR stop loss just to get started here. All right, so both of these conditions here, right, the flatten trade condition and the move to break even condition, those can be addressed or implemented in the trailing actions rule. So that's exactly why this trailing actions exist here. So we're going to make those into trailing rules there. So first thing, let's change the mode to custom there. That enables the trailing rules. And then let's add a trailing rule here. All right, so let's add the flatten here. All right, so whatever, just give this trailing rule some kind of a name there. We'll just call it flatten here. And so the key here to identify if a candle closes with the high below the entry price here, that kind of condition that you want to look for is what the triggers do. That's why we have these trigger conditions. And the one we're going to use is price versus indicator. Now, this is universal, so it can be price versus price, or it can be indicator versus indicator, right? So, hopefully depending on how new you are to Shark Indicator tools, we always build our tools as flexible as possible. So even though something might be named price versus indicator, we always make it so that you're not locked into price. You can do whatever you want. You can do an indicator value, you can do price, you can even use the linear regression channel indicator there. So anyways, price. So all right, so we want to compare the high price of the bar, and if you're in a short trade, you can see it automatically inverted the price there for you, right? So if you're in a short, you'll be looking at the low price of the bar there. And if you wanted to, you can even add a tick to the high price. So you can say, all right, you know what, the high actually needs to be one tick below that entry price, right? Or 2 ticks below that entry price there. So you can add a tick offset as well. So, all right, so there's the first input, is the high and low prices. And then input B, right, that's going to be the entry price of the trade there. So we're going to change the mode to price. So there you go. So now we're comparing price versus price. And then in here, let's see. Yes. All right. I don't think I've ever been asked this question before, so that's kind of why I wasn't quite sure, but I wasn't positive, but I was pretty sure that we had access to the entry price there. So there we go. Just put in the average entry price just in case you get a split fill, or maybe you're scaling in or something like that, right there. And there we go. So now we're actually comparing the high or low versus the entry price. And then here's the other thing, is the mode. So if we're in a long trade here, the long mode, we want A to be below, right? Below B, not above. So we're going to change this. to A needs to be below B. And so for a short trade, it'll be the opposite. It'll be A, which in this case would be the low price, needs to be above B, the entry price. All right, so that's the condition, the triggering condition that you're looking for that triggers the flatten, right, command there, right, to cancel the trade. And so the action here is simply, the action is going to be flatten position. And there you go. That's all there is to it. So we just use the price versus indicator trigger, and then the action is flatten. And that's it. Obviously, when you flatten a trade, you can't repeat that rule. So there's no repeating, obviously. All right, next, let's go and make the break even here. All right, so we'll let's give it a name there. And so this is just going to be the reverse of the flatten here. All right. So again, let's load in the price versus indicator. Let's go into input A. This time, if we're in a long trade, we're looking at the low price. There we go. And again, right, you know, in case that low price is sitting right on the break even, right, you might want to add a tick or two. So, you know, just to be safe, you know, if I was doing this, I'm sure I would probably add a tick or two. But I guess then again, it depends on your time frame there. You know, maybe if you're on a really long time frame, you got really long bars, so you don't have to worry about it. But yeah. So anyways, so the point is, right, input A is going to be the low price if you're in a long trade, and the high price if you're in a short trade. And input B, again, we're going to switch that over to price like we did last time, and then plug in the average entry price. There we go. So, all right. And you can even add a tick offset to, actually, you know what? I got this backwards here. Sorry. So back to input A. So for the low price, sorry, you'd want to subtract, right? We'd want to take the low price and subtract 5 ticks. So that way the low price, yeah, subtracting 5 ticks is above the average entry price. So like that, right? Or, you know, depending on how you think about math in your head, you probably, it's easier to take the entry price and say, all right, you know what? I'm going to take the entry price and add 5 ticks. And so the low needs to be above the entry price plus 5 ticks. That, to me, that actually is a little easier to think about in your head there. And then you just going to ask yourself, all right, so for the mode, can A actually equal B? Can the low equal the entry price? Or, you know, or just does the low price need to be literally above it? So that would mean at least, you know, 1 tick above or a half a tick above the average entry price, right? So you just kind of figure out, do you want to include the equals or not? So I'll take the equals out there. And there. All right, take that out as well. All right, so again, that's our condition, right? The same as the flatten. The flatten condition there, but you know, the high and the low price and the modes here are just reversed. And then, so for the break even, the action, right? So what is break even? Break even is, oops, hold on, wrong one. So we're gonna go into the move to there. So break even, right, is your average entry price. So there we go. So just move your stop loss to the average entry price. And again, if you wanted to do like a break even plus 1, there you go. You can just add 1 tick to the average entry price, or 2 ticks, whatever, if you want to break even plus 2. whatever it is you want. So add a little tick offset, right? And again, once you move your stop loss to break even, that's a one-time action, so there's no repeat. So these aren't actual trailing rules. These are just one-time actions there, so there's no repeat there. So the only time your trailing rules ever use the repeat there, I'll just throw another one in here. Yeah, so the only time your trailing rules ever have the repeat, set to indefinitely, is some kind of action here that is actually moving your stop loss, tick by tick, is actually trailing your stop loss there and moving it. So yeah, otherwise things like break even and a flatten, those are just one-time action, so there's no repeat. Let's get rid of that. All right, so there you go, Freddie. The next logical follow-up question is, what about trailing after the break even? So I'll add another trailing roll here, and we'll just call this trailing. So if you want to, for trailing, obviously you want to make sure that the trailing occurs after the break even. So what you do is you take your break even trigger condition and you just re-implement it into the trailing there. All right. So I'll just whip through this again real quick here. Where is it? There's the low price. There we go. Input B, set that to price, and then pull in the average entry price. All right, and then let's take out the equals like there, right? So there we go. So I just rebuilt the price versus indicator condition again, right? I just rebuilt it exactly the same as I did for the break-even rule here, right? So both of these trigger conditions are exactly the same, and then in the action, depends on how exactly you want to trail, but if you want just a simple tick by tick trailing, I'll just put in like a 25 tick trailing there, right? So when you're trailing, obviously you're taking the last price there, and you're just trailing it X number of ticks below, or ATRs, right? So if you want to use an ATR based offset, then you could plug in your ATR there. There we go, right? So you could trail one ATR below, right, the market's last price there. Actually, this would be 25 ticks minus one ATR. So anyways, I'll just take out the ATR, call it good, and then since this is an actual trailing rule, right, that's going to be moving your stop loss there on a tick by tick basis. Now let's set the repeat to indefinitely. There we go. So, and notice here, right, the default is this repeats once per bar. So since what I actually built is a 25 tick trailing roll here, right, so most likely I think most traders would want that to be on a tick by tick basis, but again, who knows, maybe you only want it to update when the bar closes. But if you want it on a tick by tick, then we'll just adjust this to there you go, ticks of movement, right? So we can update it every one tick of market movement there. Or if you wanted to say, okay, you know what, only move the stop loss when the market moves every 4 ticks there. So whatever, right? You can mix and match all you want all day long there. So there's the trailing there. And again, so your question was, how do we make sure that the trailing occurs after the break even? So again, you just make sure that your triggers match exactly. So All right. And if you ever want a reminder of that, you can always just pull in from this quick list here. You can go down to the trailing, and we can see, right, we have a 10 tick trailing with a break even plus 1, right? So we can pull that in, and then you can just look at the trailing rolls on that. So here we are on the trailing actions, right? So we can see here's the break even plus 1, right? And so we can see we have a trigger that says, all right, after 10 ticks of movement, then it triggers the break even, right? But then the trailing says, right, there's a little adjustment here. The trailing says, all right, after 12 ticks, after 12 ticks, because remember, this is a break even plus 1. So the math was already done. I mean, you could have said, all right, trail, you could have made these both exactly the same there, start trailing after 10 ticks of movement. But the math was done to make this, precisely correct, because it is a break even. Actually, as it says here, it's a break even plus 1. So technically, your trailing really doesn't kick in until you're 2 ticks above 2 extra ticks, right? So in other words, 12 ticks in profit, right? And then, so you want to be, since this is a 10 tick trailing, right? Your trailing really technically doesn't kick in until you take your break even plus 1 and then add another one. So be break even plus 2 and then add your 12 ticks, and that equals 12 ticks of movement. So anyways, the point is, right, you can pull in that quick list and just remind yourself that, oh yeah, you know what, both of these triggers here are basically the same. So, all right, so a little technical note here. So Freddie wants to make sure that the stop loss moves to break even and starts trailing based on the candle low, or the bar low, on bar close. So you can't mix and match that stuff there. NinjaTrader doesn't allow you to mix and match. So if you're BlackBird, let's pull up the strategies window here. Yeah. So if your BlackBird has the calculate set to on bar close, then yeah, bar prices are, BlackBird only gets bar prices when the bar closes, right? That's a NinjaTrader. It's a NinjaTrader framework design. You can't violate that. Now, if you have the calculate set to on price change or on each tick, again, that's, you can't violate that calculate decision. So the bar low will, so all the prices here that BlackBird receives is based on that NinjaTrader calculate setting. So what you'll need to do is, right, so if BlackBird's calculate is, let's put it on each tick, right? Then that way, so when a new bar is forming, this low price is based on that new bar that's forming, not the bar that's closed, right? And so where is the bar that's closed? Well, it's actually 1 bar back. So you would need to take the look back and adjust that by 1 there. So that way you're looking back 1 bar, which would be the bar that closed, right? So that would be the low price of the bar closed. Yeah, so keep in mind that. So as I was kind of talking with, Albert. Yeah, Albert's question about tick replay and the calculate settings, right? So you do have to understand all the nuances of how Ninja's calculate settings affect bar prices that are received by the indicator or received by the strategy and all that stuff there. All right. So as long as BlackBird is running with calculate on bar close, then this is exactly what you need there. Or this is, the exact setup there. Oh, also, that's right here. So actually we have a bars to go here. That's another way that you can say, okay, look back to the previous, look back one bar. Whip that up and test it out. And actually we can do that right now. Let's see here. Just for good measure, let's see, I'm on a 15 range. Yeah, let me just add a little buffer there. And let's see, this is a 1.5 ATR. Yeah, I better increase that ATR. There we go. And all right, let's go take a look here. Let's go short. Maybe I should have gone long. All right. And there you go. So that bar low closed on the wrong side of the entry, and boom. Let's go short again. Oops. Oh yeah. So this does actually create a problem. Yeah, this does create a problem where, if you're going with the trend, and I'll get back to that. There you go. So we had a bar, right, where the high closed 5 ticks, below the average entry, and so it moved to break even there. So actually, so this flatten actually has an inherent built-in issue here. Where if you're going with the trend, your previous bars do have a low price or high price on the wrong side of the average entry. So let's see here. So it's a good thing, always good thing to test this stuff here. So I'm going to switch over to the advanced tab, and let's add a 1 bar delay. There, we'll add a 1 bar delay. All right, and so the mode is, right, we need both of these trigger conditions, right, to occur simultaneously. So obviously we need this 1 bar delay to have occurred, and then also comparing the high and low to the average entry price. So we'll leave the mode to simultaneously there, and I think that will fix our problem. All right, so I'm going to need another there we go. So great. Let's see. I think that fixed it. And that fixed it. So we had a low that's below the entry price, and it didn't cancel it. Cool. All right, I think that fixed it there. All right, so let's take a look at this again here. All right, so for the flatten, oops, shorten that out. All right, so for the flatten, we added a 1 bar delay to it. All right, and there we go. Let's see here. Let's see. Okay. Yeah. So, all right. Yeah, you probably Freddie's stating that that I guess you had implemented this already, and the flatten command was sometimes activating instantaneously. So um, next time, probably lead with whatever the problem is that you're having there. Yeah, lead with that. That way I'm clued into exactly what you're trying to solve there. So, but on the advanced tab here, right, you can combine multiple triggers here. So you can combine multiple triggers to create more complex, set of requirements, more complex, set of conditions there. And then of course the mode, right? Sometimes, this is pretty rare, but sometimes, right, you need conditions to happen in an order, and in sequence, or sometimes you might have multiple conditions that would trigger flatten, and it doesn't matter which one, which condition it is, right? It could be condition A, B, or C, and whichever condition happens first, then then you want the trade flatten there, right? So any would mean, out of all the conditions, out of all the triggers you have in here, whichever one fires off first, right? Whichever one comes true first, then that will then execute, whatever the trailing roll is. Right? So you have, all the different kind of combinations of mixing trailing rolls together there, so you can make stuff quite a bit more advanced. Technically, I could have said in sequence, although to me that just seems to overcomplicate this. But then I could have moved the price versus indicator down, right? So if you use the in sequence, then this 1 bar delay has to occur first, and then BlackBird will be waiting for the price versus indicator condition as well. All right, there we go. So looks like we got Freddie's problem solved.